In December 1972, one of the most powerful air forces on Earth launched a massive bombing campaign against Hanoi and Haiphong, hoping to force an enemy back to the negotiating table. The weapon at the center of this battle was the B-52 bomber, a symbol of American air power that seemed almost impossible to stop. But above the skies of North Vietnam, thousands of soldiers operated one of the densest air defense networks of the Cold War. The result was a battle that shocked the world, destroyed parts of cities, killed civilians, and changed the direction of the Vietnam War. So what happens when a superpower tries to break a capital from the sky, and the defenders refuse to surrender? By late 1972, the Vietnam War had already lasted for years, and both sides were exhausted. The United States wanted to withdraw its forces while creating conditions that protected its ally, South Vietnam. North Vietnam wanted an agreement that would allow American troops to leave and preserve its ability to continue the struggle. Peace negotiations in Paris had been underway for years, but by December, talks had reached a critical deadlock. Behind closed doors, both sides accused the other of delaying. Diplomacy had become a battlefield of its own. Then, on December 18, 1972, President Richard Nixon ordered Operation Linebacker II. The mission was simple in theory: use overwhelming air power to pressure North Vietnam into accepting the terms of the peace agreement. The plan depended heavily on the B-52 Stratofortress. At the time, the B-52 was one of the most advanced strategic bombers in the world. It could fly long distances, carry massive bomb loads, and strike targets from high altitude. To many American planners, it represented technological superiority. The idea was that such a force would be nearly unstoppable. But Hanoi was not defenseless. For years, North Vietnam had built a complex air defense system using Soviet-supplied weapons and trained personnel. The network included surface-to-air missiles, anti-aircraft artillery, radar stations, and fighter aircraft. The most feared weapon was the SA-2 surface-to-air missile. It was designed to challenge high-altitude aircraft like the B-52. The skies above Hanoi became a dangerous technological contest. One side relied on altitude, speed, and electronic warfare. The other relied on radar, missiles, coordination, and preparation. The first nights of Linebacker II brought waves of American aircraft. B-52s attacked military targets around Hanoi and Haiphong, supported by fighter escorts and electronic warfare aircraft. The scale was enormous. Hundreds of sorties were launched during the 11-day campaign. The night sky became a battlefield filled with explosions, searchlights, radar signals, and missile trails. But the defenders were able to respond. North Vietnamese forces launched hundreds of surface-to-air missiles during the campaign. Several B-52 bombers were shot down. The exact numbers remain debated, because both sides reported different figures, but the losses were significant enough to challenge the image of the B-52 as untouchable. For American crews, the mission was extremely dangerous. They flew into heavily defended airspace, knowing that advanced missiles were waiting below. For North Vietnamese defenders, every missile launch represented a desperate attempt to protect their cities and force the bombing campaign to stop. The battle was not only fought in the sky. It was also experienced on the ground. Bombs struck military facilities, transportation networks, and industrial areas. But urban areas were also affected. Residential neighborhoods in Hanoi and Haiphong suffered damage, and civilians were among those killed. One of the most remembered tragedies occurred at Cam Tien Street in Hanoi, where heavy bombing caused extensive destruction and many civilian deaths. For the people living beneath the bombing routes, the war was no longer something happening far away. It was above their homes. It was in their streets. It was in the sudden disappearance of ordinary daily life. Meanwhile, international reactions grew stronger. Images and reports of destruction increased pressure on the United States. Critics questioned whether bombing a major city could truly create peace. Supporters argued that the campaign was necessary to break the negotiation deadlock. Like many moments in war, the reality was more complicated than a simple victory or defeat. After 11 days, the bombing campaign ended on December 29, 1972. The United States had demonstrated its ability to launch massive air operations. But North Vietnam had shown that even the strongest air force could face serious resistance. The campaign did not produce a straightforward military collapse. Instead, it increased pressure for negotiations to continue. The Paris Peace Accords were signed in January 1973, leading to the withdrawal of American combat forces from Vietnam. For North Vietnam, the battle became known as Dien Bien Phu in the air, comparing the confrontation to the famous 1954 victory over French forces. For the United States, Linebacker II was seen by many planners as a successful use of air power that helped return negotiations to the table. Both interpretations remain part of the historical debate. But one fact is clear. The battle showed a powerful lesson of modern warfare. Technology can create enormous advantages, but it does not guarantee political success. A fleet of advanced bombers can destroy targets, but it cannot automatically decide the future of a nation. The skies over Hanoi in December 1972 became a symbol of that contradiction. The world's most advanced bomber met one of the most determined air defenses of the Cold War. The result was not just a military confrontation. It was a moment where machines, strategy, diplomacy, and human suffering collided. And decades later, Linebacker II remains a reminder that wars are not only measured by bombs dropped or aircraft lost. They are measured by the choices made afterward, and by the people who must live with the consequences.